temptation to say, I'm not like either of those. I always do what he wants. But that's not true. But we are very much like the ones who said, yes, I will go. But then we get into these strange situations that we don't always understand. So one time in Rome, I'd given a tour of St. Peter's Basilica. I really enjoyed that. They had a good time showing off the marvels of St. Peter's. And, they gave me a donation, like €100 or something. And, I was walking back to the train station to go back to the house. And this beggar woman started bothering me and asked me for some money. And I wasn't happy about that because, all this, is it the right thing to do? Because, there's all this, you don't know if she actually needs it, she's lying or whatever. And then, so at one point she asked me to do it for the love of God. And so at that point, I got really angry internally, but I did it because, I will do it for the love of God. I just wasn't happy about it. And so I went to a couple shops with her and said, pick up whatever you want. I've got €100 here and I'll pay for it. And so she did that. She got her bags of different goods, and I paid for it. And then I went and, caught the next train and got home a little later than expected. But there's this question: why was I so angry inside? And because, I did a good thing. I was trying to be charitable. I was trying to, love God. But I was not happy inside. And the simple answer is because I felt like she forced me. I didn't do it because that's what I really wanted to, because I chose it, but because I felt like she had found a way to twist my arm. And that's what we find ourselves in a lot of situations. We feel like, I'm doing this not because, it's good, not because it's the right thing to do, not because, I want to, but because someone's twisting my arm. And it can be, I feel like it's the superior twisting my arm. Sometimes I can feel like it's God twisting my arm. And it's a bit of a question of, well, what do? The brother comes up and says, yeah, you need to go wash dishes. And you're like, I don't know, there's something in me that says no. But your mind is like, yeah, it's God's will, go do it. And your will is like, and you might go do it, and you might, have a frown on your face. You might not be very happy. You might be a little grumpy with the person you're working with. And then, Jesus asked, did he do the Father's will? And you look at him, well, kind of. And so what do we do? What's the solution? And, well, we have to see the good. We have to choose. There's this feeling, you come here, you're doing something in the motions, you're going through the motions, and, you could be a little down, like you're just not fully present. But then, for one reason or another, you say, no, I choose this. I'm going to be here. And all of a sudden you get this, probably a dopamine hit, and, this surge of strength. You stand up a little straighter all of a sudden, and you're like, okay, Father Kevin is fully present. Let's rock this. And it's like, well, what happened? Well, you activated your will. You chose to do something, and your will is made not to be forced. It's made to choose what is good, the good that is presented to it. And so when we find ourselves in these situations, when we feel like we're being forced to do stuff, and that rebellious spirit comes, it's because our will isn't meant to be forced directly. It's meant to be persuaded. It's meant to be presented with what is good. And so we get like another example where it's like you're on the soccer field and you have a captain that knows what he's doing, and you're probably down because you're a little disorganized, and he brings you all together and he gives you the plan. And he says, like, you need to go run up there and come in from the side, and they're going to pass it to you and you score. Or you need to stay back on defense and just shut their best guy down. And you accept it and you're excited about it, and he just gave you an order and it wasn't your first thought, but you accept it because you trust him, you see the good, you know the goal, and you want to win. And so you need those things when, go do the dishes. It's like, well, what's the goal? What's the good in that? Can't someone else do it? I've been doing it the whole week. And you got to use your intellect, you got to use your mind and recognize, what is the good here? That I get to serve my brothers, and is that something I want to do? You might say, well, and then you think about it a little more, and this is something good, and then at some point you can say, yes, I want to do it. And it's the best dishwashing you've ever done, and you had a great time. Or later on, God is going to ask you to do something, and you're going to not understand it at all. It's going to be like, this doesn't make any sense, it goes completely over my head. And there's going to be a part of you that says, no, I don't want to do this. It doesn't make any sense. It's not reasonable. It's not going to work, You can feel this way with prayer at some point where it's like, it doesn't do anything. Why should I go and waste my time? And God's going to just say, do you love me? Will you do it just for that? Not because you understand it, not because, it's the best, not because it's the most effective, but will you do it just because you love me? And if you bring that in, and you bring how much God loves you, and how much he cares about you, and you know how good he is, then you'll be able to say, yes, I'll do it because I love you. And you'll go, and it will be great. And you'll triumph over what before was just miserable. And so one of the invitations would be when you notice you're getting into a routine, you're kind of going through the motions, your heart is, asleep at the wheel, you're kind of giving yourself half-heartedly, or, your mind is always on the moon, you start thinking about other things, that's a bunch of red flags to go deeper, to go and find Christ and see his goodness and say, yes, Lord, I do want to follow you. I want to live out my baptismal commitments. I reject Satan and his works, and I believe in God. And, for all those religious, I want to live poverty. I want to live chastity. I choose obedience because I love you. And then he will give you the strength and the courage to keep on trucking.